Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hey all, go to assholeconsulting.com if you have a question. We got a couple video requests today. I might even get to all of them today. Currently, I'm an undergrad in business at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. After my first year, I decided to give second year a chance because it seemed to have more focused classes. After first year's super general classes, so long story short, decided to get the fuck out of business because it sucks and do computer science. Good man. I've learned some programming basics and have basically stopped showing up to all the business classes. Decided basically barely pass those classes as it's a waste of time. I was only accepted to the arts program for my in-school transfer, which isn't too bad because art students are able to do courses of computer science. Problem is, I hate it in Vancouver because it's boring and I almost have no friends. How could Vancouver be boring? There's a ton of mountains. I know the people may suck, but it's like Seattle. I mean, like, you got all the mountains in the world. It's a beautiful area. Plus, like, summer's coming up. I had the idea of going to LA because my grandparents and my aunt have a house there and I could use a car and go to school there. I like this option because it seems like a good change of pace. I really want to go to a community college here because I hear it's the #1 transfer priority into either UCs and CSUs. More interested in transferring to UCLA. Unfortunately, my dad is incredibly biased against community colleges and views them as real shitty and wants me to apply to a 4-year university. I know I won't get into any UCs because of bad grades and they don't prioritize out-of-state transfers. I don't want to go to CSUs because they're difficult to transfer to UCs with the credits. A lot of the universities are closed for the August term as well, and he wants me to apply a lot to 4-year ones. Well, then have him fucking pay for it. Jesus Christ, these goddamn parents. It's like my generation learned fucking nothing. He views community colleges as the lowest option, yet he doesn't see that they are a competitive institute that offers a decent education for real cheap. The problem is I'm really dependent on my parents' financial support. Well, that's because you're not a real man. Fucking H. Christ, dude. You wouldn't have these problems if you paid your way through college. My dad's quite wealthy, education subsidized by a company for 4 years. I wasted 2 of it. Okay, well, you fucked up there. And he's really adamant about how it's not my decision anymore since I made a mistake going to Canada. Your future, your life, your education is not your choice anymore? This guy sounds like a fucking controlling prick. No offense to you, okay? But some offense to your dad. Any insight on what I should do in this situation? I really want to go to a community college as I think it'll help my short-term goals to get into a UC school. I think I'll be depressed if I'm forced to stay in University of British Columbia for another year. We had a little bit additional correspondence. You're a citizen. Oh, that's what I was asking. If you had, you get in-state tuition. I've lived in the Philippines my whole life, but you're an American and an Italian citizen. You've never lived in the U.S. or California, so you'd have to pay out of state. Maybe you also have some insight into the process because my 2 years of community college, if I'm able to do that, will grant me some sort of residency again. Now, if you're a student, you don't get residency. I just learned that myself from another kid. I mean, maybe that's the case in California, but at least the state this other kid was going to. I mean, you can always look it up. But if you go to school, it's not like, oh, I've been here a year, now I get to pay in-state tuition. It doesn't work that way. You're kind of like not a citizen. You're like on a student visa, if that makes any sense, even though you're a U.S. citizen. The tuition of my 2 years of community college won't be a problem because my dad receives a heavy subsidization from the Asian Development Bank, but probably no subsidization for the following 2 years after community college. Okay, well then you become a fucking man and pay your own way. Probably send you the money pretty soon. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Would be living man nice. Okay, here's the deal. You're right. And you're in the position that millions, probably millions. I don't know how many college students, but I would absolutely guarantee you millions of college students are in right now. You didn't know what you were going to major in. You didn't know what you wanted to do. You went to college. You realized this is bullshit, and the amount of money, at minimum in your case, time that you're putting into it, you got to make it count. And so now you're making a very wise choice to change your majors. Now, the thing is, you are on your second year. After my first year, decided to give second year a chance. You were in business, and now you're going to computer science. All right, so you should have a fair amount of your prereqs out of the way. I'd imagine that University of California, or University British Columbia, Vancouver, a fair amount of those credits would transfer to the community college. You may not even have to go to community college that long, and there may be the option that you've gotten enough prereqs out of the way that you could transfer to a four-year university, go there for 2 years, maybe 2.5, and still get your 4-year degree. Now, in other words, you would transfer to a community college at the UC system, but there'd only be like maybe a handful of classes you would take, but then you'd have to and then apply for the 4-year institution. But as you pointed out, your grades suck. You could boost your grades over to community college. Preferential treatment is given to those who are in community college as opposed to those not. And so that's kind of your selling point. But just be aware, there may not be a lot that you could do at community college. You would really just be going there, I'd imagine, at least a year, because you could take a fair amount of community college or computer science credits and then touch up any American credits that you need to get that weren't transferred from Canada. So I'd estimate, you'd have to look at it. You'd spend about a year in community college. The real issue is if your dad's going to pay for it. And if he's already saying that you're not in control of your own life, I mean, holy shit, you're just going to have to take that chance. So what I would do here, this is what your plan is good. You found out you're majoring in the wrong thing. You don't like the school you're going to. So now you're going to come with a better plan to a college or an area, at least that you can live relatively cheap with housing and a car. Go to your community college, get into UC system, get a good school, get a 4-year degree. Explain that to your dad. The key thing being, Dad, I want to get into a good 4-year institution within the UC system, and in order to do that, it is very beneficial to me to apply for community college. I will not be graduating with a degree from bumfuck you community college UC system. That's only where I'm getting my cheap credits. I will then transfer, hopefully, luckily, and have preferential treatment to UC Berkeley or whatever the other higher reputational school that is you want. And I will graduate with a degree in that. No one's going to know I went to community college. No one. And you'd also have to explain to them about the concept of the education bubble and how, well, this might be going to stretch. It doesn't really matter where you go to college. It matters where you get or what kind of degree you get as long as the school is accredited. But he sounds like one of these fucking snooty public sector, never worked a real job. I know the Asian Development Bank. I don't know why you need the Asian Development Bank. It ain't like the fucking Asian markets haven't evolved over the years to handle their own financial problems. So he sounds like some kind of elitist, like, my son, I have no son. He had to go to Harvard and he didn't make it. Kind of smells like a blue blood is what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. But explain to your dad, look, this is very smart. This is very wise. There is no shame I'll be bringing to the family. It doesn't matter. It's the same classes. It's smarter, actually, because it's cheaper. I'm saving you or the Asian Development Bank the money. and then I could go on and get in a degree that's going to be much more employable, much more reputable. If he doesn't go that route and he doesn't, well, son, you may have to cut your dad off. And you may have to go and get a job, and you may have to suffer like every one of us motherfuckers who didn't have the benefit of a silver spoon stuck in our mouths. And at least you'll have your fucking freedom. Because here's the thing, if your dad is not going to be reasonable, sane, or logical, and he thinks he controls your life, that's the real scary thing. Like if he was like saying, he's just being a dick, he's not a dick, he thinks he knows what he's doing, he's just old, he's out of touch with how the school system works today. If he was just like, no, you don't, you need to go to school, it sounds like you could reason with him. But if he says that you're no longer in charge of your own life, that's a control freak. And no matter how much money he's giving you, you'll never be free. You're going to have to get out from underneath him. So you're going to have to prepare to, if you want, move down to UC, to Los Angeles, move in with your aunt, get that car, they'll save a ton of money. And you're just going to maybe have to pay out-of-state tuition in that community college program. Hopefully the community college is that cheap. But if I recall correctly, California is pretty damn cheap because you guys are a bunch of whiny cunts over there. Like, you don't want to be careful because the students are pretty heavily subsidized. So you should be able to swing like a security guard job, some kind of nighttime job, some kind of study job where you can work, you could study on the job, especially with no living expenses. You should be able to swing community college. You might have to get a loan, might have to apply for federal aid, But you should be able to knock out your 1 year at community college that I think you're going to need before you can start applying over at the 4-year institutions. And then when you apply for the 4-year institutions, yep, there you go. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to get student loans. You're going to have to do it completely on your own. And then when you graduate with your degree, you go and live your life, and then, you know, all this entire time your dad will probably be crying to have you back. Like, well, what did I say, Dad? You know what? You said you're going to control my life. You're not going to control my life. I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to be a real man, and you're not telling me what to do anymore. This is a great plan. You obviously aren't listening to reason and rationality. We'll hang out on Christmas. I'll see you on Thanksgiving. We can have great conversation, but you're never telling me about my life or my future or my education ever again. Ever. And then he might respect you. You'll have stood up to him, assuming that you were treating him logically and with respect and made your case. You explained to him the benefits of your plan politely. He might hear you out, and then he might decide to start supporting you again. But I would be prepared, simply because it doesn't sound like he's going to let you live your own life. I would be prepared that you're going to have the next 3 years of your life are going to suck. But at least they'll be your own, and you will answer to fucking no one except yourself. So, anyway, hope that helps. I do like your plan. Great plan. Looking at the cost, look at how many credits transfer from Vancouver down to any one of the community colleges nearest to your aunt. Do a little personal financial budgeting. See if you can't land yourself a job somewhere, and strap yourself in, son, and get prepared for some sleep-deprived, food-deprived days and nights, because it ain't going to be fun. But you will be your own man, and you will have a better life. Best of luck. Toodles.